Hi there. Thanks for tuning in to Make This Happen, where we discuss an idea we've been dying to see come alive. Every week, my friend Alexander Gonzalez and myself, J.E., will bring you a product you never knew you needed. It's because in the script, my name's first, and so I always want to say my name, like every week, my friend. Anyway.
Oh, so you have to switch it up? Yeah. It just made my name sound like a little bit more European, like Alexander. Is how it felt to me.
Ooh.
What else was I gonna say? Oh, and also on the intro when you said hi there, it sounded like you sneezed. Hi there.
like when people cough underneath their breath, like hi there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we making happen this week? What are we making come alive?
In the gamescape right now, what's everybody talking about? Everybody's talking about the next gen
Hades
console.
Oh yeah.
Or I guess Hades
or they're
too.
talking about games that came out 2 years ago and are randomly popular now.
Well, Hades
like
was early access, but anyway, I get you. Anyway, games, new gen, all that stuff. And what of the big three is missing from this conversation? It's Nintendo. And what has everyone thought would come out eventually, because Nintendo always loves reiterating their hardware.
Nintendo Switch XL.
Exactly, or a Nintendo Switch Pro, right? So
yes,
before, and I'm gonna say it now, is we've already done a prediction episode with Harry Potter RPG, and I would say we weren't 100% correct, but we were pretty spot on. So let's try to do the same thing with this Nintendo Switch Pro. So I guess the direction I want this show to go, I don't want us to go too crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I want this to be in the scope of what we could actually imagine Nintendo doing, but also put a little bit of what we want in there. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to go for all of the easy points first. The low-hanging fruit, as you would. We're going to have a smaller bezel. We're going to have a bigger screen. For people who don't know what bezel means, I'm not trying to be presumptuous. I didn't know what bezel meant until 3 or 4 years ago. It's the part between your screen and the border. It's the black border of your screens that you would see on a TV or anything else. That little black border, that's called a bezel in terms of technological devices. So you're going to have a smaller one of those. You're going to have a bigger screen. Naturally, I think this is going to have more battery life. We're going to go ahead. I think it's going to have a slightly longer battery life. The Nintendo Switch, as it is right now, can play Breath of the Wild handheld for 3.5 hours.
I could play Hyrule Warriors for about an hour and 45 minutes.
So I think to get more playtime out of that is going to be easier, just because what I mean by that is the more powerful processor is going to be tasked with bigger games. But if you pop in Breath of the Wild or Hyrule Warriors, it's going to be able to run that really smoothly and for a longer time. Just like how if I play
I see what you mean.
Octopath Traveler, I get about 8 hours on my Switch.
So you're not saying, okay, let's take Breath of the Wild, for example. You're not saying that on this new Switch, Breath of the Wild, this is a bad example. You're not saying like,
or the latest Pokemon is going to be able to run better,
right?
And you're going to have 2 different modes where you can either do battery conservation, where it would play at the same resolution that the previous Switch did, and you can conserve battery for road trips. And maybe, how about let's add another feature in? What if it goes to power saver mode, where if you get into the last 20 or 10%, you can all of a sudden start taking out color or certain things like vibration off the Joy-Cons, so it lasts even longer.
So I like the idea that you just said right here, where we are kind of playing on the half-step generation that the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X did, where there's 2 different not performance modes, but modes you could switch between, which is performance mode and resolution mode. But for the Switch, because we aren't technically going for resolution mode, we're going for either, let's take Breath of the Wild, where either you could run Breath of the Wild handheld mode in 1080p, 60 frames per second on the Switch Pro, but the battery life would be pretty much equivalent to the original Switch at that point. Or switch it to battery saving mode, where it goes back, reverts it to regular Switch graphics, but it will let your battery last 75% longer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
smart. That's a really smart way to do it. That's actually genius. And let me say, the reason why I want a Switch Pro to exist. I'm not saying I need one. I'm not saying that my Switch is inferior for what it does right now. The reason I want a Switch Pro to exist is because with the upcoming PS5 and the upcoming Xbox Series X, I'm worried further down the line, certain games that come to Switch just won't run well. Like when Hyrule Warriors came to 3DS, there's two different modes for the new 3DS and for the OG 3DS. And on the OG 3DS, Hyrule Warriors, I didn't play it, but I saw videos, ran like dog shit.
Yeah.
There was half as many enemies on the screen, and it just chugged. You're seeing like 15 or less frames per second for some of the bigger encounters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
That's not fun for anybody.
if Cyberpunk, I'm getting a year mixed up in my head, 2077. Is
Yeah,
that right?
that's it.
I
Yep,
think
that's
one
correct.
time I said 2022 or something stupid
You
like
said
that.
2027 or something like that.
Something weird like that. But anyway, like because CD Projekt Red, apparently they like the Switch enough where they ported Witcher 3 to the Switch. And my PS4 Pro could barely run that fucking game. You know what I mean? I'm surprised the Switch could do it. But Cyberpunk 2077, I can't see that running on our Switch, you know, unless they significantly downgrade it. So essentially the Switch Pro is to be able to run games like that, not necessarily being like Nintendo's going to create Breath of the Wild 2 exclusively for the Switch Pro. You know what I mean? Of course, on a Switch Pro, I imagine Breath of the Wild 2 or like Splatoon 3 or whatever will run better and have better frame rates and maybe high resolution and handheld mode. But that's not the purpose of the Switch Pro. The Switch Pro is just to keep up with third-party ports from the next gen of consoles. You know what I'm saying?
I also want there to be, I don't know why I am just going to mandate this, but I am. They need to use the Joy-Con vibration more. They tried to sell the console on it. So now I
Ooh, you're
want a
going in that
Nintendo
direction, huh?
first party launch game with a Nintendo Switch Pro where you're going to play an inventive game where there's a new Nintendo character that's gone blind and you have to feel around using the Joy-Cons and use that touch sensitivity to figure out what objects are in the world.
Are you talking about a 1-2 Switch 2?
I guess, but maybe in this one you're playing a character that's blind.
I think instead,
so they have to feel everything.
I think instead what they should do is make Nintendo Land 2 and have a lot of them deal with HD Rumble.
And on top of that, we're also doing we're going to do Nintendo Pro Sports.
So like
a Nintendo, like a Wii Sports,
like a Mario
but
Olympics
we're gonna do a
thing?
Switch Sports. Yeah,
Gotcha.
No, but it's gonna have
But it's not. It's
just
it's
general
a,
sports.
It's a Wii Sports sequel.
Yep,
I get you. I like it. Well, okay,
and that one's gonna come free in the Switch Pro.
Let's talk about Joy-Cons for a second, and also the size of the Switch Pro. The first thing I imagine, we talked about a much smaller bezel, bigger screen. I also see this thing like I see it a lot beefier, where I see it's still thin, but I want to say it's a little bit thicker. So obviously there's going to be a new dock for this thing. And also this new dock, it needs compatibility with Bluetooth headphone dongles, first of all. So you could just put in a USB dongle into the USB on the dock, and it would be able to read it via your Bluetooth wireless connection. And also the Switch itself also needs a Bluetooth connection to Bluetooth headphones, such as the AirPods or whatnot. Also, it needs
Yeah.
much better Wi-Fi connection and much better Ethernet connection because the internet on Wi-Fi or on the Switch, terrible. Anyway, that being said, I see it being a bigger console, and what a lot of people think is weird about that is the Joy Cons will look funny on a bigger console because they're too small for Switch Pro. But what I imagine is the Switch Pro will come with detachable Joy Cons, quote unquote. I would call them Joy-Con Pros, maybe. And these Joy-Con Pros are literally just a Nintendo Switch Pro controller split in half that you slide on the two sides, right?
Oh,
And
wow. Yeah.
if you have a bunch of Joy-Cons, because obviously Nintendo fans are gonna buy a Switch Pro when they already had a Switch and 10 pairs of Joy-Cons, you could buy like these plastic slash rubber insert things where you could insert your Joy-Con into this rubber plastic thing, and
Yeah,
then those things will
like a
slide on.
rubber mold
Yeah.
that would then encompass and make a pro controller.
Not
So
necessarily. It'd just be your Joy-Cons in a bigger thing, so when you slide them onto your Pro, there's not extra space on the top and bottom. You know what
I'd
I'm
almost
saying?
prefer that too, depending on the game I'm playing, so I can just sweat on those and then take them off and wash them,
Mhm.
or
But
palm sweat.
they the Pro Switch will come obviously with its own Joy-Con Pros on the console itself, but then you could buy
Yeah.
maybe the Joy-Con Pros will be like just different colors and stuff you could buy, but there won't be too many. Maybe it would just be black, gray, and maybe one crazy color like red or something. But if you want to use your crazy colorful Joy-Cons, you could get these. I imagine them to be black, but now that I think about it, maybe they're clear on the back. So if you have these crazy colored Joy-Cons, you could still show them off, but they're going to be in this big rubber thing. So you could just slide them on. And then I like the Joy-Con. It's not a D-pad, but it's a directional button deal for Tetris, and I hate using my Pro controller for that. So I would use the Joy-Con Pro, or sorry, the regular Joy-Cons for certain games like Tetris, where I have to be very like fast and quick with my choices on the D-pad, and then I'll use the
Yeah.
Joy-Con Pros for like Breath of the Wild too. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So besides that, we're gonna go above 1080, but it has to be docked.
You think
That's
so? I think 1080. We're focusing
1440. You can't hit 1440?
I'm thinking 1080, 60 frames per second for every Nintendo first party game. And handheld mode, it's gonna be 1080, 30 frames per second, pretty much for everything else. Because you know how currently handheld, it could only go up to like 720 or something like that. Just because I don't see 4K being important for like, it doesn't matter if you're playing Mario Odyssey 2 in 4K, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because it's
Oh,
not like you're seeing every single skin pore on Mario's face.
on top of that, we're gonna do an app with the Bluetooth feature called Find My Switch, where you're going to be able to download an app on your phone to be able to find your Switch if you misplace it while you have it in a carrying case. I think that's small. And see, you're talking about not seeing every pore on Mario's body. I was thinking about doing a Dr. Mario where he goes inside of Luigi's body to get Bowser, and you can see every single cell.
Yeah, but even then, I don't think it needs to be higher than 1080.
That detailed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And also because it's a handheld system, essentially, higher than 1080 really isn't going to make that much of a deal, in my opinion. And I play my Switch mostly handheld at this point. But essentially, what I want is Breath of the Wild specifically. Let's say it's on the Switch Pro, and I want it to run at 1080, 60 frames per second. And there's just no question. And that's Yeah, even freaking handheld. I would say every Nintendo game should run that well on the Switch Pro.
Okay. All right. What other improvements or do we have it here? Is this little half step um good enough?
I'm trying to think of other like
I'm
workarounds for certain things. Like obviously freaking the cardboard thing isn't going to be compatible with this thing. Um
No,
cuz
no, it's
it's not
not.
going to
But
fit in the cardboard
nin-
stuff.
yeah, let's leave Nintendo Labo
That's
behind.
what it's
That
called,
was cute.
Labo. That was a Switch exclusive, OG Switch, because this is going to be a bigger, more beefier handheld. Like I imagine this. This is a bad comparison, but I kind of imagine it to be kind of beefy, like the Game Gear, where it's like it's pretty thick, you know.
What a callback. Game Gear is very old.
And it took like 8 AAAs or something like that on that thing. Uh,
You're robbing all of the TV remotes. You're robbing maybe some siblings' batteries out of their clocks. You're setting some clocks back to 12 that night as you're trying to get your Game Gear going with 8 AA
oh yeah, it was
batteries.
pretty bad, that thing. But the thing.
Let's have it. We need storage? Do you want to have it where you can hook up an external to the
No,
dock?
I think Nintendo games are small enough where these big mini micro SD cards work fine. Maybe in this one it doesn't have to be micro. Maybe in the Switch Pro it's just a regular
And
chip. So you could just
another launch exclusive to the Nintendo Switch Pro is Red Dead
oh
Redemption
my
2.
god. Can you No, even better. GTA 5.
Oh God, why? No, we can't. You can't stress Nintendo servers that way. They're not ready for online components.
But
Red Dead
see,
Redemption 2, no
the
online.
biggest upgrade to the Switch I want to see with the Switch Pro is its internet connection in terms of Ethernet and Wi-Fi, and especially the Bluetooth, because the reason why I don't like playing docked is because the input, is it called input lag, between my controller to the dock to the TV is
And this is going to be an
bad.
aside, but if I know you and you put your dock behind your
I do.
TV and you tell me that the input lag isn't from that, I don't
It is
believe
from
you.
that. It is from that.
And it's not just you. It's other people in my life that have done so. And if you're listening, you know who you are and you're wrong. And I can't handle it because I had to do that for a long time. I understand why the dock is ugly. So I put it behind my TV and I figured out that caused issues.
It's not that it's ugly. It's that my entertainment system is too small for my dock to be in front of it. Otherwise, my dock is going to take up a tiny portion of my TV. It's a tiny portion of my TV. But that tiny
but it's
portion
annoying.
is where, like, in every game, the freaking UIs are. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I do.
And okay, I understand I'm doing this to myself, that I'm putting my Switch behind my TV.
Yep.
But I still want the Switch to, I don't know. Is it too much to ask that I want my controllers to do it? I don't know. I think Nintendo should do something about the Bluetooth, because it's just not good. Maybe it doesn't have to be Bluetooth. Maybe Joy-Cons and Pro controllers and our new patented Joy-Con Pros connect via a different technology.
What if there's a wireless charger that's a pad? And while you're docked, you can press a button on that pad and it shifts it up. So now the pad is sitting at a 90-degree angle on the platform. And that's the Bluetooth. So it's not that big, but it's something that the signal can bounce off of that's small that can fit under your TV.
Or, that you being said, this is just, I mean, Nintendo wouldn't be offended by doing this or anything, because I mean, they make you fucking buy an adapter to connect it to Ethernet. You know what I'm saying? You have to buy a USB adapter to plug in your Switch by Ethernet, and it's ridiculous. Anyway, That being said, there should be maybe a USB add-on, which is like a Bluetooth receiver, like a Bluetooth router, let's call it. And then you could put that anywhere as far as the USB link will go. And then that's where all your controllers are like connected to, is this new external Bluetooth router.
We just have to be careful because I honestly hate consoles that have too much stuff attached.
Like modules.
I never bought the Wii in part because I hated the black bar that was the receptor for the Wiimotes. I hated how my friends would have to sit there and either put it at the bottom of their TV and there was these thin little wires everywhere, or put it at the top of their TV and they had to kind of swish it around. If there were any animals, small babies, they'd get caught in the wires. I'm like, I don't like this. And then all of a sudden you have nunchucks to connect and I'm like, this is a lot of work. It's honestly why I haven't gotten into PSVR, even though I feel like I should.
But I mean, Nintendo's infamous for this. You got the Game Boy Advance comm cables going on. You got like the printer for the Game Boy Color. You got the little camera thing for the DS.
The fucking Power Glove, I think that was a Nintendo thing. Yeah, Power Glove, right?
So much, the Rumble Pack, the OG Rumble Pack.
Oh,
the weird black thing that you put N64 games onto to make it like better or whatever, the enhancer or whatever that thing did. I don't know what.
They also did VR first, which was basically a binocular, a really heavy binocular with a stand.
Or just like those picture things that you put up your face and you just rotate pictures through.
Yeah, man, how mad would a kid be these days if you gave them a kaleidoscope? You're like, here, take a look at
Well,
these.
I thought a kaleidoscope is just like colorful.
It is, but I'm saying, it just made me think of the kaleidoscope as a children's toy, thinking about how today's children would be like, this, I don't know what you want me to do with this.
Well, Nintendo, make this happen. Thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions or products you'd like to see talked about, feel free to write in at @poundgames@gmail.com. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to join the @pound family, please, I just added a please in there. Please come find us at patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early, meaning make this happen gets to your ears that much sooner. If you enjoyed our show, take a second to give us a review. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Store, and more. Catch you guys next Sunday with Alex's new idea.
We're going into recycling.
Oh, that's a hot topic right there.
Is it right now?
It's not right now. It's always a hot topic, man. The world's dying. The ozone layer's gone. We're all gonna burn to death.
Mean, there's a song by the Postal Service. If we get famous, it'll get claimed. But there's a part in it, a lyric that goes, "Now we can swim any day in November." And if you know me, you know I fucked that up.
Are you thinking of shit?
Don't wake me, I plan on sleeping in. Don't wake me, I plan on sleeping. Oh. And I'm tone deaf, so good luck with that.